Hey BookTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer, and today I have a big announcement and my December wrap-up for you. So first, my big announcement is I am pregnant! It'll be our third child. We have a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. I'm due August 6th. We're all really excited. I have been miserably sick with morning sickness and tired all the time, so that's not very fun, but I think I only have a few more weeks of morning sickness and then it'll pass. It has felt like everything has just happened all at once because on November 30th, we moved out of our old apartment and then our new house wasn't quite finished, so we stayed in my sister-in-law's house for 2 weeks. It took a lot longer to finish our house than we were hoping. And so then we moved into our house and it was time to get ready for Christmas, and we did Christmas and my birthday and New Year's and everything, and all through it I was feeling just miserably sick, so it's been quite the experience, and that's why I haven't done any booktube videos, but I'm really excited to be doing booktube videos again. And I have a new shelf, sort of. It's my sister-in-law's house. They are moving out of their house and living in a trailer for a while they save up to build a different house debt-free, and so we're storing her bookshelves for her, and of course I was more than happy to do so. Anyways, on to my wrap-up. So I read 15 books in December. The first book I read was How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind by Dana K. White. It was an ebook that I think I got for free. I signed up for an email list where they send out free Kindle deals every month, and I think this was one of them, but I absolutely loved it. I would definitely recommend it. I guess she has a blog about being a slob, basically. I've never read her blog, but I loved her voice. I will probably go find her blog. I also love the ideas in it. It's about basically how to keep your house clean and organized if you're not naturally clean and organized. I got a lot of really good tips from the book, and I loved her voice. She was hilarious and down to earth, and I just really liked her as an author. Next, I read All Around the Town by Mary Higgins Clark. I got this book at a secondhand store. I've heard the name Mary Higgins Clark. My mom has read a lot of her books and actually owns a lot of her books, and so I've never read one of her books and I decided to pick it up, and I really liked it. It was about a little girl who gets kidnapped when she's a child, and then she grows up and it kind of follows her into her adult life, and there's a lot of mystery and a lot going on throughout and kind of a creepy feel. I think it would be a really good October read, but I definitely want to try reading more Mary Higgins Clark because I felt like it was fairly clean. Even though it talked about a lot of violent and sexual things, it was really clean. It was never inappropriate to me, and so I think that I would like to read more of her books. Next, I read His Needs, Her Needs for Parents by William F. Harley Jr. This was a book that was on my sister-in-law's shelves when we were staying with her, and I picked it up and decided to read it, and it was very, very good. A very good marriage book for parents. He had a lot of really practical advice, and it all seemed very well-founded, and I agreed with all of it, and there were a lot of really good ideas of ways for me to be a better wife that I want to work on. So I'm really glad I read this. Next, I listened to Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I actually was going to wait to read this until we were all moved in, but my husband got the audiobook, and so we listened to it together. But usually what would happen was we would start listening to it and then I would fall asleep because he is a night owl and I am definitely a morning person. And so I'd fall asleep and then I'd wake up the next morning and I would read in the book to where he listened to, and then the next time that we had free time we would listen again and I would usually fall asleep again. But I absolutely loved Oathbringer. I am not a huge epic fantasy person. I haven't actually read very many epic fantasies, but I really, really love the way that Brandon Sanderson does the Stormlight Archive, and I love fantasy in general, and Brandon Sanderson in general. So I love the characters and the character arcs, how consistent they are and how they tend to become better people. I really love how he builds up to a moral lesson in the end that is always really powerful to me. The Way of Kings ending has been my favorite because of what Dali does. If you read it, then you'll probably know what I'm talking about, but I found that all 3 of them so far have had things like that in the book that have really impressed me to be a better person. I also really love the magic systems and the way he talks about politics and ideas, and he seems very unbiased when he's doing so, and Yeah, it was a fantastic read. Definitely worth the huge, long time it takes you to read it. Next, I have no idea how you say this, Hygge by Charlotte Abrams. It's a book about the Danish people and how happy they are and why they're happy, and it basically just talks about the atmosphere that they create with candles and blankets and snuggling and hot chocolate and different things, and I really liked it. I especially liked the parts where it talked about how to be happy in general. It was written by a happiness researcher. There were some things that bothered me about it, honestly. The book talked a lot about eating comfort foods and cakes and unhealthy food and not feeling guilty for it. And to an extent, I think that that's okay, but I also think that you're happier as a person when your body feels good and when you're healthy. And if all you eat is comfort food, then you're not going to be healthy or feel good, and then there's no way you're going to be happy. And so I think there's a moderation there that the book kind of missed. Overall, I enjoyed it. The next book I read was From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by E.L. Konigsburg. This was an ebook that I had on my phone, and I didn't know anything about it. I kind of read the synopsis right before reading it, but it blew me away. I thought it was fantastic. The main character is a girl in elementary school who takes her brother, because he has saved his allowance for forever, and they run away, and they don't want to sleep in the forest or something, so they actually sneak into a museum and live in the museum. And while they're there, they discover a mystery, and she decides that she needs to solve the mystery before she can go home, and it's so good. It's philosophical, it looks at life and the meaning of life and people in general, and I don't know, it was so interesting to read. I couldn't put it down. I read it in basically one sitting. It was so good. Next, I read Simplify by Joshua Becker. I've read a lot of other stuff by Joshua Becker. He has a blog and some other books on minimalism, and this was another book on minimalism. He calls himself a practical minimalist, where he isn't a minimalist who only owns 100 things or who sells everything and goes and travels on the road in a trailer or something like that, but he's a minimalist who owns things and still buys things and does Christmas with his kids and everything, but he tries to be very intentional about what he brings into his home and make sure that he doesn't have things in his home that are weighing him down, so that he's free to do with his time and money and energy what he actually wants to do. And his form of minimalism really speaks to me. My husband and I are still trying to find the balance, but we've been working towards minimalism for a few years, and now that I've said minimalism a million times, it sounds so weird to me. Then I read The Rosie Project by Graeme Simsion. I found this at a secondhand store as well and read the synopsis and was very interested. It's about Don Tillman, a brilliant yet socially challenged professor of genetics who's decided it's time he found a wife. And so, in the orderly, evidence-based manner in which Don approaches all things, he designs the Wife Project to find his perfect partner, a 16-page scientifically valid survey. And then he meets this lady, and he is helping her find her father, and they start becoming interested in each other, but she does not fit his criteria for a wife, and it all goes on from there. And so I loved it. I was worried it wouldn't be very clean because I didn't know anything about it, but it was actually fairly clean. There was some swear words, the F word, that bothered me just a little bit, but not enough to stop reading it, and there wasn't anything else in it really that bothered me enough. I really loved the themes in the book about friendship and love, and the main storyline isn't really the romance in the book. That's kind of a backstory to the Don Tillman's character's growth throughout the book as a person, and I really, really loved reading that. I thought it was so interesting. Next, I read Keep the Happy in Your Holidays by Cherie Lowe. I did read it before Christmas, and I thought it was a very good read. It was an ebook. I think it was one that I got for free, and I thought the author did a very good job. Her voice was funny and fun to read, and she had a lot of really good ideas. It would be a good time. It would be a good book to read at any time because it talks about preparing for Christmas, even starting in January or February. But I found it very useful right before Christmas, and it really focuses on kind of a simple Christmas that you can really enjoy and how to find that for yourself. I thought it was a very well done book. I also read The Hired Girl by Laura Amy Schlitz, and this is a book that was also on my sister-in-law's shelf that I have been kind of wanting to read for a little while, and it blew me away. It was my favorite book that I read this month. 5 stars. It is about a girl who loves to read. She's 14 and she lives on her father's farm, but she runs away when her dad basically cuts off any chance she'll ever have of educating herself. And she gets hired by a Jewish family, but she is Christian, and it was so good. I learned a lot about history, about religion. There were a lot of themes about respecting each other's beliefs and about making friends with people who are different from you. And the character is a 14-year-old girl who pretends that she's a lot older, and so I felt that the author was very true to her character with what she would do. She was very interested in clothes and reading, and there's one of the sons, she was very interested in him, and there was kind of a romance there, but I felt it was a very realistic ending. I felt that the romance was very realistic to what would have actually happened in real life, which sometimes in books set in older times, it's not always that way, but I loved it. I loved the ending, I loved her character growth, I loved everything about this book. It was so well done. Next, I read a series by Sandra Orchard. A Fool and His Monet was the first book. Another Day, Another Dali was the second book. And Over Maya Dead Body was the third book. So kind of cheesy titles. They were murder mystery books. The main character's name was Serena Jones, and she's an FBI agent whose mom wants her to retire from the FBI and get married. There's a love triangle. There's bad guys. She recovers art, so there's a lot about art and art theft and things. And the mysteries were very well done. I loved reading them. Her life was very well balanced. It wasn't all just about the mystery, and the romance was actually well done too. I actually really enjoyed the love triangle. It was just kind of a for fun read, and I really liked it. The last book I read was A Holiday for Murder by Agatha Christie, originally published as Murder for Christmas. This is a book that I picked up at my mom's house while we were staying there for Christmas, and I actually read it after Christmas, but it was super fun to read still. The plot is this father who loves to create contention in his family, invites all the kids back for Christmas, all his grown kids, tells them that he's changing his will, and then he has a bunch of diamonds stolen from him and is found murdered. Hercule Poirot is called in to help with the investigation because he's staying with one of the policemen, and it is actually really, really good. I did not guess who the murderer was beforehand, and there were a lot of things, even some of the things I guessed kind of threw me off, and there were a lot of other twists that I didn't expect, and Agatha Christie, I feel like, is so good at murder mysteries, and I love murder mysteries. I have always loved watching TV shows that are like murder mystery, like Castle or Bones, but I didn't really realize until recently how much I enjoyed reading murder mysteries, and Agatha Christie is one of my favorites, so I really want to read more of her books because I haven't read a ton of them. But this one is definitely a good one, especially if it's Christmas time. So the last book, actually, I said the last one was the last one, but I listened to one more with my husband. We listened to Warbreaker together as we were traveling for Christmas, and we both read it before, but we wanted to reread it because there are a lot of characters in Warbreaker that show up in Oathbringer, and we couldn't remember Warbreaker super well, so we went back and reread it, and it was super fun to listen to it with him and then to talk about all of our theories and stuff. So Brandon Sanderson's books definitely hold a lot of intrigue, so you can come up with a lot of theories, and you can spend hours discussing the different theories and reading about them online and stuff, so that's really fun. So that's my wrap up. Thanks for watching my video, and I will see you in the next one.